It's Monday, June 18th, 2018. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Goes. To my left is Dan Tom. To his right is John Morgan. He's in studio.
What is going on?
And in New York, producer Danny Okers. And Jake Ellenberger, who's outside and just has his hands full, so he gave me a half-assed head nod that I was kind of confused about. So make up your mind, Danny. It's cold or it's hot?
It's hot outside, but it is fucking freezing.
What's up, dude?
In my studio.
That's you.
So it's the worst kind of contrast ever. Like,
yeah.
I have shorts on because it was really hot outside, and now my legs are numb.
Two? You're killing it.
What's up, Jake? How's it going? Good to see you. Got tea and a coffee?
Yeah, how many drinks does he need?
I like it. That's baller move right there. I can't decide. Give it all to me.
He's double fisting. What is that? Really?
2
What's
minutes. 2 minutes.
Huh. All right. Jake, right now we're doing our pre-show, so they can hear you, so don't talk about that rash thing and all that.
Or dude, it's kind of whatever you're up to.
But just put ointment on it, it'll go away, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, look at George. He threw that Peru jersey away awfully quick. I said you got rid of that Peru jersey awfully quick. This morning is going to be George Garcia.
Coming up in a minute.
Jake, can you throw in your headset real quick? We're going to do a quick mic check on you.
More than goes?
By the way, nobody follows the World Cup a little bit. You're either in or you're out.
Even if it's on TV, you know what I mean? Like, I'll listen, I'll accept it.
Like if you go, this is full of $1 million. Who's playing next to you?
Coming up at 30.
George, ask me if I follow MMA. Yeah, a little bit. They're still doing that, like, cage and stuff, right? That's what he did, but for soccer. They're still wearing shorts and stuff, right? Yeah, like I follow it.
I got some family down in Baja, California, so I got to give them a shout out.
All right, guys, coming up. Stand by.
We're going to start.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yes!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
¿Qué hubo, cabrones? Somos MMA Junkie Radio. Que viva México. Les ganaron a Alemania anoche. Fue un gran partido. Ese es el Juan Morgan. La sombra blanca le dicen. El Jacobo Ellenberger. del UFC, el infamoso Goes, Daniel Tomás allá, el cabrón del Danny, ahí está en Nueva York. Yo soy el fabuloso y guapo George.
Now, are you suggesting that during the World Cup you have to speak Spanish to like soccer, or are you just completely jumping off the Peruvian bandwagon? I mean, you basically got the Mexican flag on today.
B. Option
All
B.
right.
Yeah. You know, I bought this like a long time ago. Do you remember when we went to Adidas in Palm Springs and they made a mistake? They thought we were employees. And so it was already like a Black Friday. And then on top of that, it was like first 2 hours is even take off another 50%. And then when we walked up, they go, "You got your badge?" or something like that. And I was like, so I thought they thought we were cops at first. And I was like, no, I didn't bring it. And then they knocked, I saw them go like this. And boom, they chopped it off again. So we were like, oh, we get that additional, huh? Yeah, yeah. So we went back and just grabbed all kinds. Because I go, I'm going to wear this once or twice a year.
Yeah.
And it comes in handy. Because Mexico defeated Germany. Yeah. Ellenberger sounds German, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
And they rarely do
taking it hard all weekend.
They rarely do that. You know what I mean? So it was a big game. I thought I missed the Cinco de Mayo. And I go, okay, I gotta wear this bad boy today. Yes, of course, I'm rooting for Peru, but man, I gotta give it up to Mexico. They balled. Yes, did you guys watch the game? Please, anybody?
Yeah.
Of course, that counterattack. It was a thing of beauty, man. It was like a basketball fast break. And Germany battled. They battled back and made it. Even though it was a 1-0 game, I felt like I watched 5-4, 4-3. It was intense.
Look, man, this is what I try to tell people about soccer. And I know we're not going to convert people, MMA fans, to watching soccer that just hate it. It was a 1-0 game, so on paper you could go, who cares? But, dude, the tension in that game, where, you know what I mean? Like, every moment means something. Basketball, just up and down, 2 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point. I love that tension where just 1 point means that's why, to me, it sounds weird, but I say soccer is my second favorite sport behind MMA. And MMA, you know, one mistake, one moment changes everything. It's the same thing with soccer. I know people struggle to see that, but it was a tense game. It was fun.
I told my buddy Big Ralph, I go, look, you're a big baseball fan, right? He goes, yes. And baseball, those games can end 2-1, but sometimes you have 8-6. Soccer doesn't really give you an 8-6, but they'll give you an occasional 4-3. But what I told him about is you get pumped up over a strikeout, right, or a nice pitch or a single, but it doesn't mean a run was scored. So it's still a 0 unless you bring that guy in. Well, that's what's happening in soccer. Man. Stop worrying about, like, it's not going to be basketball. It's not going to be 101 to 98, all right? But look at how they can pass the ball with just their feet and chest and, you know, occasional shoulder or the head or whatever. Look at those plays, and if they materialize, they don't, but still, that's the buildup. That's why when someone scores, everyone goes nuts. In basketball, not everyone goes nuts over every play. If it's a slam dunk, sure, or if it's an intense part of the game, sure, but there's things to like about it. And I know some of you are saying, but they flop too much. Shut the fuck up, all right? I'm going to tell you why. Because in football, every single play, somebody's going, oh, no, offensive interference or defensive interference. Throw the flag. In basketball, how many times are they flopping? Or when they call foul, or when they don't call foul, they're like standing there instead of playing defense.
Basketball's getting really bad lately.
Right, they're sitting there going, I got fouled. No, you missed.
Yeah.
You know, so it happens in every sport. I mean, guys argue over a ball and a strike. This is MMA Junkie. We'll get to some MMA.
No.
They argue over that stuff. I mean, so enough already. There's just, if you don't like it, I get it. But don't deny that it's the biggest global event. It just happens once every 4 years. Put up with it for 6 weeks is all I got to say.
What I don't understand is that same fan that's saying those same things is the same guy that's complaining about kick his ass Seabass and MMA. I can't believe these guys saying these things. You're doing the same thing in another sport.
Pretty much. How you doing, Jake?
I'm good.
It's good to have you. Looking good.
Thank you.
I mean, this guy's, I consider him like, we know a lot of fighters, but I consider you like one of the fighters that we know the closest. But yet it's so fucking tough to get you here. Why is that?
I know.
This guy comes into Vegas.
I know.
And doesn't even like send a text like, hey, I'm here. I just can't make it in, or thinking about you guys or nothing. I'll watch him on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and him and Orlando just painting the town pink. And then all of a sudden, like, hey, you still in town? No, man, I'm already back there.
You know what the worst part of it is? The part that I have problems with is he admits it. And I don't like that. I'd rather he try and lie to me, because then at least I could go, damn it, Jake. But when he admits it, I'm like,
I know. He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
I know. I'll be honest. I don't lie. So, but I don't come here as often as I used to. Certainly kids change that. So it's a little different with two kids.
See, there you go. That's a good lie, right?
It is pretty good, yeah.
He's off to a good start.
How you're here for 3 days, right?
Yeah.
Are you supporting someone at Contenders? Or
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Giga, good friend of mine. Giga Chikadze's fighting tomorrow night. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And how you doing? You're a couple weeks removed from your fight.
I'm good. Yeah, I've been spending some time with the family, you know. But things are good, dude.
Obviously, I know that fight didn't go your way. You're a veteran, though. You've been doing this for years. How do you handle a loss, I guess? That's something I like to ask every fighter. But
Yeah. Well, you know,
you shake it off quick, or is it within your soul for a few months burning?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, it depends, too, with, you know, how you felt, how you, like, leading up to the fight. 'Cause there's fights that I've lost where you're like, I probably didn't even deserve to win that fight. Like, you didn't even put the work, or you didn't, you know what I mean? There was some, maybe you didn't do everything you should have.
Okay.
But this was one of those fights where I did absolutely everything I should have. And you know what, it is what it is. That's what the sport is, you know. There's just unpredictability and I mean, but to answer your question though, I move forward. I'm always looking in the future. So I don't, you know, it is what it is, and we move forward.
Just remember, he does not like it is what it is. You might want to start using that one.
All right.
Yeah.
I kind of want to ask you for, you know, to explore that a little bit, because after this loss especially, man, you look particularly frustrated. Just reading your body language, reading your facial, like, you just look particularly frustrated. And I wondered, you know, was it you know, the method? I think it's probably frustrating to lose to like a body shot or something like that, or was it a situation where you're like, everything's clicking, this is going to be my night? I mean, it just, in observing you, it looked like you were particularly frustrated.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right, because it was one of those nights where everything was clicking, like the warm-up, everything was on. I felt great, and there was no, like, you know, people like to point fingers in the looking, you know, hindsight's always 20/20, but there was nothing that was hindering the preparation leading up to this fight, so that's why I was. And yeah, I had about 6 months, 5.5 months leading up to the fight, and it's literally one of those things where, literally, you know, no room for error. One mistake happens and it can end the fight, and it's super frustrating, but you know what I mean. You got to deal with it.
Jake, where did he actually get you?
The liver,
the knee.
Yeah.
Oh, it was in the liver. Okay. So
Yeah,
it just shut you down.
He had a couple knees, like in the midsection. You know, a couple that were you can take, but yeah, the one that put me down was right in the liver. So yeah.
Now I've seen people react to that where obviously it hurts. There's no way around that. But some people kind of like backpedal and they wince, or they fold over, and then others collapse. So I guess this is the severity of it.
Sure.
But what you can do is recover maybe anywhere between maybe 3 to about 8 seconds. And I know you went down, and I saw your hand here, and it looked like punches got deflected, honestly. But were you, had he not stopped it, like, was it still so severe that you were out? Because you didn't contest the loss, but I know there's also a recovery that comes pretty quick after it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because
and I'm not setting you up for anyone to think he's making an excuse. This is a question because I see it a lot in a lot of fights.
Yeah. No, and I've been hit in the body plenty of times in training, and there's just some that you can accept, and there's just some you can't.
Okay.
And it was, like I said, like he'd hit me a couple times in the midsection. You know, may knock the wind out of you, may give you a little pain, but there's stuff that you can work through. And that was one of those where you need like 15 to 30 seconds.
Oh, I see.
You know, like, I don't know. I'd like to think I could have kept going if, you know, 10 or 15 seconds go by, but unfortunately, the ref right there, you don't get 10 or 15. You know, I mean, the ref sees you're not defending, or you're not doing anything offensive. You got about five seconds. So that was one of those shots that's just there's no working through that. It's just because it was one of those. It has nothing to do with how tough you are either. Because I mean, I've been hit and kicked and kneed by some monsters, but that one was one of those, like, it almost like you fall because it's kind of paralyzing for a few seconds, and you're like, fuck, you know what happened, but.
I see. You see that? It worked. We're moving forward. It worked. Yes, it worked. All right.
So going forward from there, Jake, like you said, it's a real difficult situation because you feel like you had one of your best camps going in. You did all the proper things, and I'm sure now people are going to start to come in with well, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Is it difficult to not really fall into that trap of having to reinvent everything because you felt like you did everything right going in?
Right, yeah. And I've done that. I've been that guy where it's like we need to, you know, throw the paper out and start over, and it's like, this is one of those fights where I really don't think we need to do anything different. Like, sure, there's small things, strategy, there's things that we can do as far as the blueprint to change, but as far as preparation, training, like physically, mentally, I mean, that was, and I was even talking to some of my coaches and my training partners. I was telling them that was in my 12 years of fighting, that was the best. as far as preparation leading up to a fight camp that I'd ever had. And so it's not like I said, I can't point any fingers to what happened, I didn't do this right, didn't do enough of this, like where am I spending my time? It's like, no, everything was right, everything was on the money. That's why it was particularly frustrating for this fight, because like I said, moving forward, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I'm not done fighting, and because I really think we have the right recipe. And that's the thing, it's hard to talk to people on the outside, like family members, people that have no idea really a lot about the sport, and it's like, you can do everything right and not get the right result. You can do...
Or you can have the worst training camp ever and show up, just lay somebody out in the first round.
And I've done that. I've done it where it's like, you're not doing stuff you should be doing, or you're not completely in, and it just goes your way. Things happen. There's no perfect formula. Mm-hmm. Everybody's different, and opportunistic. The opportunities, it just comes down to taking advantage of opportunities and timing. You know what I mean? It's one of those unpredictable sports.
Does it make it tough to, knowing, because I got to think, liver shot, we know your body just can't take it, but there's not like long-term damage. It's probably better, I guess, than a traditional knockout or something like that where you're taking some head trauma. But I do wonder, like, is it hard for you on Monday after the fight? Are you right back in the gym, like, I got to do this, or is it like, frustrating? Because here you are, you said you're not done fighting and you've been doing this your whole life. So, is it easy to get back in on Monday, or is it frustrating after the fight to be like, I don't know if I still love this anymore?
No, that's a good question too, because I get asked that a lot, and I always tell people, if you wake up, you wake up Monday, Tuesday the next week, 2 weeks later, and you don't have that burning desire, that fire inside you, and only a fighter can, only the person waking up can answer that. But I know for me, like it's completely there, and I'm honest with myself. I'm honest with you guys. Like, if I didn't wake up and I wanted to fight, like I didn't have that chip on my shoulder, that burning desire, we'd move on. It's time to move on. And I think that's an easy question to answer. But there's I get it. Some people out there want to make another paycheck. I get it. But at the end of the day, you know if you should be fighting or not. So
I have kind of a strange question, Jake, and hopefully you can give me a good answer on this, because I have heard this before from other fighters. So right now we're going to flip the script a little bit. Now you're going to support a friend. Mm-hmm. Dana White's Contender Series. Mm-hmm. I'll be there. I'm not fighting. I'm not cornering, but I'll be just feet from that cage, right? I can hear everything. I can see everything. I could probably get sweat will fly in my lap at some point. When you have to flip the script and now you're going in to support someone else, but you're fresh off a fight like that, do fighters ever have a little bit of almost like a PTSD where now the thoughts come racing back because you're kind of in that same scenario? You're not fighting, but you're hearing everything. You're kind of making that walk as well. What's that situation like?
Yeah, a little bit. You definitely have those moments where you're like, I know what he's thinking, or I know what's going. I know how he feels. There's definitely times and situations like that, but it's a lot easier to manage when you're on the outside. You know what I mean? Like if I'm cornering a guy and I know how he's feeling, you can tell by looking at him what's going through his head. You can tell by looking at his eyes. He's getting tired. Whatever it is. But I'd say from a coaching standpoint or a teammate standpoint, it's a lot easier to manage from the outside. But it's one of those things too. Is managing emotions is a tough thing to do, but. Yeah, I'd definitely say at time, whenever I go to a fight live, for sure, you have those moments where you have flashbacks or whatever, how you felt in the last fight, or when when it's live and you're looking at the lights, it's you and him. That's it.
Quick segue. You were just there at the weigh-ins. Everything smooth for tomorrow?
Everything's smooth. It's actually kind of interesting. So this was the 10th Dana White Contender Series event, right? When you add in the 8 from last season. So 10 fighters per card. 100 fighters have weighed in now. Wow. All 100 fighters have made weight. So nobody has missed weight for any Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series.
About that Monday, huh?
Which is so funny because, we're all this conversation about morning weigh-ins, afternoon weigh-ins, and here it is. These have all been 9 a.m. weigh-ins in Las Vegas every single time, and we're 100 for 100. Everybody's made weight. Only one person out of that 100 has needed extra time. They only do 1 hour instead of 2 hours because there's only 5 fights. So they get a 1 hour window, and one fighter last season needed an extra hour. So we're actually kind of talking about that as a staff offline right now. There's so much discussion about this morning weigh-ins, afternoon weigh-ins, but no issues. Everybody's on point for tomorrow.
It's good to hear. That's good to hear. I personally like the morning weigh-ins. I think everybody does, and I think it's
except for those that talk to Dana White about it. Obviously,
that's frustrating, man.
He's talked to some people apparently that like that afternoon weigh-in.
I don't know, and exactly. I don't know why they would, but again, I think
I don't even know if they exist. I'm being sarcastic, honestly. Look, we said this last week. Actually, go ahead. You're the guest. What were you going to say about it?
Yeah,
and then I'll go into my whole thing.
Yeah, go ahead. No.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a tag team. You're tagging me in?
Boom.
All right. This is what I feel. I feel like when Mike Bond did that article, which I believe is what started a lot of that trickle effect, right? That's the research, obviously, that he notes when he was talking to the media. If I'm a businessman and I go, look, doing it this way has resulted in lesser business being done or whatever, you know, or the
lost revenue.
Yes. This way, it hasn't. While we figure it out, we're going to do this, but just don't tell us that fighters have been telling you that, because everyone we've talked to hasn't said that. In fact, I still to this day have not heard one person go, I love the 4 o'clock weigh-ins. I've heard people say, hey, look, I'm a professional, I'll make either one. Yeah. But I've never heard anyone favor that, and I've heard tons say they favor the early. So let's just figure out the problem, but don't give us a scoop of crap about that that he's heard from others, you know, because we're going to call you out on it. And this is why media calls him out on it, because there's times when he sits at the podium and he also calls out the media. It's a fun game between him and us, him and us, and every once in a while there's a pushback. This is his pushback because, again, we're not idiots, you know what I mean? Yeah. And we have our contacts. We have a lot of in-studio guests. You're probably like number 10 that's told us here just on this show he prefers the morning one. So we just need to figure out how we can make business still work, because he has a point, man. The fans, the media, the fighters themselves, double the amount of fights have not resulted because of the early morning weigh-ins. So how do we fix that? You know, obviously there is a problem between the fighters. Maybe just the way, like, I think he has a point with the lifestyle. I think most of you guys are nocturnal, not early birds. So I don't know. How can we figure? Can we give them an option for afternoon and night, or even the night before, or something? But let's not take away something that's working and is good for you guys.
Right. And I think, to your point, that's kind of like morning part. You know, it's kind of irrelevant. It really. I mean, you look at these. You're a professional fighter. You know, you're fighting on the biggest stage. You're getting paid. You're getting paid to do compete in a sport, and now, you know, the morning weigh-ins. It really is irrelevant. You know, they could make, I don't know, they could make like a 9 to 1 or noon, or, you know, make it extended a little bit. But I don't know. To me, it's absurd that guys don't make weight. You know, they're like leaving so much weight to cut at the last minute, like you think you're gonna have an advantage, and it's like you're only hurting yourself in your.
That's true. They have to be done by 1, huh? Well, before they go to the arena at 4.
2 things. I remember,
just make it 9 to 1.
Well, 2 things. First, I can't remember which fight it was, but it was one of the newest ones under the early weigh-ins, and Jake was like one of the last people to weigh in the 2-hour window. And I remember sitting there thinking, Jake Ellenberger wrestled his whole life. Like, this dude doesn't miss weight. What's going on? And he shows up late. I was, I'm sorry, I was having a cup of coffee downstairs. My bad. He was hanging out having some breakfast. But, you know, I think that's the thing that people aren't realizing. So you talk about, and Jake did it for years, the old way, is the fact that, you know, people are talking about this 4 o'clock weigh-in, okay? But remember, that means that the fighters have to report at like 1 p.m. You know, back when Burt Watson was around, you had to go check in. You had to be on weight then. And then you had to sit on weight.
9 to 11. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you're sitting on weight the whole time while you get transported to the arena while you do it. And that's you know, the morning weigh-ins I think is great because more time to rehydrate. You know, studies show that the more hydration, the better. So that's great. That's safety. But then just the fact of a guy can be in the sauna, you know, hit weight, run downstairs, jump on the scale, and start rehydrating. So he can be on weight for like 30 seconds, whereas the old way you're on weight for like 3 hours, 4 hours.
Even look at the build, you know, the build up to the weigh-in. Like, okay, let's say it's at 4, and you have the pre-check, and, you know, and most guys who don't cut weight correctly or whatever, they stop eating, stop drinking for whatever, a couple days, or, you know, certainly that whole day. So it's like you're only hurting yourself even more. And I mean, I like what Eddie Alvarez was saying too. I agreed with him though, but he was big on like don't take the morning weigh-in because you got 98% of the guys that are doing it how they should, and that are excited. They're excited and happy to weigh in the morning. You know, okay, you wake up a little earlier, cut a little bit weight. But, you know, you weigh in, and it's like you don't have to wait the whole, you know, go through a whole nother day on weight or not eating, drinking, whatever you're doing. It's
so true. You're talking about 1 or 2% of the roster, and you're going to change the rules for that 1 or 2% when everybody else is saying, nah, we love this.
I know it. It's tough, too, because I understand, like, I was talking to Donna Marcolini about it, too, and I understand their job's tough because there's no, like, simple framework for everybody, like a cookie-cutter effect, but everybody, you know, there's so many variables. Everyone's hormones are differently. Everyone's aged differently, so everyone reacts differently. But I still think that you shouldn't, you know, there should be a limit of how much weight you can cut. I mean, it's like if you're within 10 pounds, you know you're going to make weight. If you got guys who show up on the week of weigh-ins that are 25 pounds over, you're like, what are you doing? Like, you're a professional. It's absurd.
Jake, we always hear about the guys at 155 who could benefit from 165, going up like a Kevin Lee, someone like that.
Yeah, sure.
But we don't hear too much about the guys that are at 170 that could maybe make 165. Could you be one of those guys?
Oh, yeah.
Do you like it?
Easy. For sure.
Uh-huh.
For sure. I could. It's, again, that's the thing is like me going to 185. I don't know about that. That's you know what I mean? There's guys that are way bigger or taller, different frame. But, yeah, going to 65, no problem. No problem.
That's what I always thought as well. I thought when I thought about if we created 65 and 75, which technically they created, right, John? ABC has created them. It's just the promotions haven't used them.
Right.
But I knew there was 55ers like Kevin and Khabib. Probably Cerrone, too. I think his 55 days are done. 70 comes up just short against some bigger dudes, but 65 would be nice. Even going back to Matt Serra, people used to ask him, why don't you do 55? Even though he did become a world champ at 170, I felt like 65 would have been nice for him. But coming downwards, I do believe there's some fighters that would benefit from that. I think yourself, Masvidal's another guy that just seems not as as big as the other ones. And then the 70 guys that are struggling, like Darren Till, would love.
I didn't realize how big he was either until I saw you see him and Stephen Thompson next to each other. Like, oh, this is a big guy.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's time, man. I think it's time for the added division. I get it. You know, for a long time, especially because 170 was such a great division for the UFC, right? I mean, you think Matt Hughes, you think George St. Pierre. You know, I mean, during eras like that, it would be weird to say, "Hey, George St. Pierre, I know you're one of the best of all time, but your division doesn't even exist anymore. Like, we've changed things up, so take a pick." But now, I mean, the belts change hands a couple times. You know, different guys looking for different options, and man, we hear calls for 165 all the time. I think it's finally time. You're not changing something in history or messing something up. You know, you're not ending some long title run or something like that by adding another division. And you see the UFC wants more divisions. They want more belts, right? I mean, those gold belts on the posters help sell pay-per-views, you know? So I think it's time.
I heard Anthony Smith do a show as well on our channel, and he was talking about how great he feels at 205, but he obviously understood that at 85 there was he had to match other guys that were also doing what he was doing. But he did say that 95 sure would be nice, So if we do them all at the same time, and now we have a sport that goes from 15, because it exists, believe it or not, with the males, strawweight, but we know it for the females, all the way through 205, and then whatever happens with heavyweight happens. I don't think we need to chop it in half, but I know that's been adopted as well. But I just think it'd be a good decision going forward. 10 pounds is a nice break. It's unlike boxing. Boxing goes 105, 108, 112. So yeah, early on when the smaller fighters, that's when people go, we don't want it to be like boxing, okay? But once you start getting to like welterweight to super welterweight, that's 147 to 154 to 160 to 168 to 175, and then it shoots to 2. That's where it can become more beneficial.
Chaos.
Yeah, exactly. 10 is a good number, and like John was saying, there is a history to 170. I understand that, but guess what? Tito and Frank Shamrock had a legendary fight, and those are two legendary fighters. They fought at 200. It used to be 170, 200, and over, right? So at one point, they adopted 205, and the word on the street, it was because Tito Ortiz, he was their main guy, and he could benefit from those other 5 pounds. And going forward, it turned out to be their marquee division for many years with Liddell and Couture and Tito Ortiz. So it can happen, It's just an adjustment. That's
the
all
NBA didn't always have a 3-point line, guys.
The UFC didn't always have 55. Forward. Remember, at one point they go, well, we don't want 55. And then all of a sudden, it's a money division
replay at the World Cup. I mean, things that we never thought we would see.
That was crazy, wasn't it? I like it for the penalty. I've seen 2 of them. I've seen it be used twice. Good old Peru really took advantage of theirs. But what I don't like is, those judgment calls. Some of them, I think that are very, very important. Like that one, I like it. But everything else, like foul on the pitch, leave it alone. Let's take a break because we are going to catch up with Carlos Silva, the president of PFL. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Look at this. We got Jake Ellenberger in the house, and John Morgan returns to MMA Junkie Radio. This isn't a cameo. He'll be here a lot more often here in the coming months. We'll be right back.
kicked off the set of The Fast and the Furious for being too loud and too good looking. Once again, here's Gorgeous George and Goes.
Jake, do you play fantasy sports? No? Well, if you did, SiriusXM has a channel just for you. Listen to Fantasy Sports Radio to hear expert advice from top fantasy baseball and fantasy football analysts. Whether you need help setting your daily fantasy baseball lineup or you want to know who the breakout players are in fantasy football this season, the place to be is Sirius 210 XM87 and streaming on your phone or at home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. Man, that phone's seen better days, huh?
Yeah,
is that the Dr. Pepper phone?
No, it's just the cover.
The Dr. Pepper phone.
Well, it was your phone that got sprayed with Dr. Pepper out of Stitch Strand's nose, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Twice.
All right.
Forgot about that.
Tell me, during the commercial, you guys have had drinks thrown at you by girls.
Yeah.
What happened to you guys?
In Peru, when we would go visit, they drink a lot over there. And so it was just night after night. What was that club called? The Arena or something like that? Forum. Just going back and forth, and there was a cute bartender. And so I don't remember this. Jeffrey told me this. I remember the drink, but I didn't remember. But he said that I had made plans with her to go out the next night. The next night, I showed up at the bar, and I was with another girl. So she just came by, and then she just went like that, and I was like, huh? And then she just went.
You were so drunk you didn't remember making the plans?
You made the plans.
Wow.
But Jeffrey goes, oh, yeah, that's right. You have a date with her or something like that. And I was like, oh,
whoops.
shit. And she threw a drink in
And
my
you know,
face.
over there, dude, they don't believe in ice. So you get a lot of alcohol that's warm. They're just used to it.
Wow.
Even the beers that they've started to change in the last 10 years. But every time I'd go there, I'd be like, "What? Like, do you have any cold ones?" And slowly but surely, they became a little bit more Americanized. And with ice, you also have to be careful when you're in a foreign country because of your stomach issues. Same like in Mexico. Same thing applies in Peru and other countries. So a hangover really fucking sucks overseas, man.
Wow.
I'll tell you that much. What happened to you?
I don't have a very elaborate story.
Well, dress it up a little. Just make shit up along the way.
I've had drink thrown in my face and dumped on my head. But
Two different incidents? Or the same? Okay, let's hear them.
But how do I'm trying to think of how I tell this story.
By protecting yourself at the same time?
I mean, years have passed. The guy's going to be cool with it, right?
This was a long time ago, but I don't know. I wasn't expecting that, George, to be honest.
I prefaced it. I said, let's save this for the show, didn't I?
Yeah.
At that point, you could have need me, and then I would have got the gist that you didn't want me to go down. Oh, you want to tell us a street fight story instead?
Wow, street fight story. Wow. I haven't been in a street fight in a couple weeks, but yet. Jeez, let's see. Yeah, give me a minute. I'll come back.
Okay.
Don't you feel like John Orlando would have a lot of drinks thrown in his face stories? It just seems like
completely.
Yeah.
He'd have about 10. He'd go, you want me to do my top 10 or my top 15? How about you, John? Have we ever asked you for a street fight story?
Nah, man, I haven't been in a street fight since like high school.
Well, tell us that one.
I don't really remember them that much. I was pretty dumb back in the day. I just got in fights like back where I grew up. It wasn't the greatest area. DeSoto, Texas is not the greatest area, and you kind of had to get in fights just to prove yourself a little bit every now and then. But
what about on a soccer pitch? Weren't you a soccer player?
I did have a pretty good soccer fight one day.
Soccer fights are cool because those guys run at each other and whack. I mean, they throw some really, really incredible high-level, Showtime kicks sometimes, man. Those guys get up there, and then they have the cleats. So, they're trying to face plant you and everything.
I had one. We like I said, it was kind of a lower income area where I grew up, and we were playing a team full of rich kids who were very good, by the way, and they were solid, but they were really annoying too because they just had better lives than we did. We knew it, but they were good too at soccer. But anyway, one guy kept grabbing my jersey, like when I would try to make a run or whatever, he'd grab my jersey. I mean, you see it out there, people holding or whatever, and I'm like, listen, if you grab my jersey one more time, I'm gonna drop you. And sure enough, it was like a throw in, and he grabbed me to keep me from making a run. I just turned around and clocked him, and right in front of the referee who saw it and red carded me. Right, immediately. Right away.
God, imagine the balls on that ref if you pull out a yellow.
Yeah, fans, they're rich fans yelling assault and battery
like
at us.
You got a temper out there, huh?
It's so funny because people that know me now, I'm like the most laid back ever. But when I was a kid, I don't know what it was. I was just an angry little son of a bitch, man. I felt like I just had to go off on the world. Now I'm like,
did you knock him out, or
it's not
just
worth
knock
it.
him back, or knock him down?
Wobbled him pretty solidly, yeah. And then of course he sold it pretty good because he was a soccer player. So he's like,
did a backflip.
Yeah, totally.
Oh! Did you play a lot of those teams? Because we used to play a lot of those teams with a lot of rich kids, and they were the dirtiest kids all the time. And their parents were so annoying because anytime you did anything back to them, they would all just go, "Oh my God, look at these hoodlums doing play this way," and they'd scream at the refs, and you'd be like, "God, you guys are the worst."
The worst. Yeah, we did. That was this, man. DeSoto, Texas, man. I still got love for my hometown, but you know, we don't have the greatest reputation.
Speaking of, guys, did you see on the front page of Junkie, we debuted what could turn out to be a series or maybe just some one-time love. Ronda Rousey was in our studio. I believe it was 2011, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing. I really wasn't setting you up. When we have someone in studio, we just happened to ask this once, and then the story was so great that our chat room would blow up. And every time someone came in, they go, "Street fight story."
Oh,
so
gotcha.
we've asked tons of these,
including
Ronda Rousey, and she told us one about her and her friend Marina, who you probably know, right?
Yeah, Marina, yeah.
When you used to go to Glendale, they were in a movie theater, and some people were acting like jerks, and she had to regulate. And so I don't want to spoil it, obviously, but if you check it out, big shout out to USA Today Sports, John, Kenny, Simon. They were able to come to deal with some animators, and man, it's hilarious. I love it, and it actually debuted about 45 minutes ago. So check it out, folks, and see if you can let a story marinate. In fact, I'll show you that one, see what you think of it. But let's see if you can tell us something from the mean streets of Nebraska.
For sure.
When we come back from our break, Jake, because we got to go to commercial.
All right.
All right. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be back with Carlos Silva, president of PFL.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Start your day with SiriusXM. Enable the SiriusXM skill on your Amazon device, and then tell Alexa to set an alarm for your favorite channel, and you'll wake up to the sounds of SiriusXM. With SiriusXM and Alexa, you can get the latest sports news each morning without picking up your phone or turning on the TV. All right, So joining us next is Carlos Silva, the president of PFL. Now, last time I believe he was like CEO, CFO. This organization is growing, man. They keep adding different parts to their executive staff, and of course, they've changed the format. No longer is it fight cards, that are promoted randomly through a matchmaker. What they've done is they've created a regular season followed by a playoff, and so the fighters, like they did last Thursday on not last Thursday, the one before at PFL 1, and like they'll be doing this Thursday in Chicago for PFL 2, these fighters will be fighting. The focus here is the light heavyweights and the lightweights, and there's 12 fights, and they've added a 13th, which we'll talk about in a second. But they're going to have these fighters. They're going to be fighting, and there is a sense of urgency because you got to win, but you accumulate points by also getting finishes if you take out people in the earlier rounds. This is the former WSOF. Now they're the PFL, and I love what they're doing. At the end, the winner of each of the 6 different weight classes will have $1 million in their bank account. Very unique. Hello, Carlos Silva. How you doing, my man?
How you doing, guys? How's everything?
Great, great. Did I sum that up right? I mean, that's basically what's happening here, right? We have regular season, playoffs, and then millionaires.
Yeah, you don't need me. Yeah, you don't need me. It was great. Yeah, no, look, we had a great debut in New York, and there were some great fights, some great finishes. I think everyone really responded to the format. We had, I think last I looked, I think there were seven finishes. There was 4 first-round knockouts, so those guys got bonus points for their knockout. A bunch of 6-point winners for the regular season to start it off, puts themselves in a great position for the playoffs. And now we're in Chicago on Thursday night. We've got some great fights with the 55s and the 205s. Just saw a bunch of the guys here at the hotel. Everyone looks great. And then, as you mentioned, we got a big special feature fight with Kayla Harrison fighting Brittany Elkin as a special feature. Kayla's 0-0, 2-time gold medalist, and she's going to be fighting here in their debut at PFL 2. So it's super exciting.
Tell me what you enjoyed the most about PFL 1. Was there any obviously this was your 3rd show under PFL, but the first under this format. So were there certain check marks you guys were trying to hit along the way that you were pleased that you did, and did it go off like you guys had mapped it out?
Well, I don't know that it ever goes off exactly like you map it out, but I think we kept to the road really nicely. I think the fighters responded. For me, what was most exciting is to see this format, this season-long league format that we've been working on for a long time, get born. And born in such a great way where these fighters came out, they understood that the best chance for them to win $1 million is to first get into the playoffs. The best chance to make the playoffs is to win their regular season bouts. And the best way to do that is by getting finishes because you get bonus points. And we saw so much of that last Thursday night at the Garden that it was super exciting. And to see the fighters, even in their post-fight interviews, talking about it and seeing where they're positioned now after their first regular season bout and what they got to think about for their second. It was great. I think it was great. It was great for me on a personal note. I think it was just great for the entire team. Ray and the entire fight group did a great job of assembling 72 elite fighters in these 6 weight classes. I think they all brought it. I think we're going to see it again in Chicago and then again in D.C. in a couple weeks' time.
Carlos, I got to say, it's pretty cool to see the standings come out the first time. I mean, we've been talking about it and imagining what it would be like, but the first time you see it on paper and you know who's in first and who's in second, who's in third, I mean, that was a pretty cool feeling, I got to admit. I even got a little bit more buzz out of that than I thought I would. But Carlos, I did want to ask you, you said things,
I agree.
You said things kind of going as planned. I did want to ask you, I mean, I think one of the biggest things everybody was kind of concerned about for you guys is how will injuries, affect things. And we did see this week, and I don't know if it's an injury or not, but I know Efren Escudero stepped in for Rashid Magomedov. But what happens to guys like that are having to pull out, right before this regular season starts? I'm just curious how you handle those guys moving forward. Do you just kind of have to leave them out for the whole season, or do you try to work them in later? How are you going to handle that?
Well, it's a great question, and look, I think we've all talked about it. The fight game injuries happen. Injuries happen in sport. Rashid got hurt training, and unfortunately wasn't able to get better in time. So we brought in Efren. He jumped right in. Is going to make his weight, and we'll go ahead and get his first fight of the regular season. I think it'll really depend on what happens to Rashid and if he's able to come back for a second. If his injury heals up and he's feeling good, he'll be able to come back in and jump in and fight his second bout of the regular season. What'll end up happening is you'll end up having 13 guys in that weight class, and the top 8 will still make it to the playoffs. And so, Rashid's got that seat, and we'll just have to see what happens if he can come back and fight or not. And that's true even with some injuries that happen coming out of some of these knockouts at the Garden, and especially in the heavyweights. So we'll just have to wait to see. We're lining up their second bouts that'll occur in July, and you got to think about it. You got to think about it as a fighter. You got to think about how you're going to train a little differently. You got a whole season of MMA in front of you, and as a league, I think we put all of the rules and regulations in place and tried to think through all of those things so that all the fighters understand those rules and regulations as the season started a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it makes sense. Carlos, I wanted to ask you, too, about Kayla Harrison. I mean, you kind of went out of your way. I mean, here's this whole league-based format, and then you've got this one girl that you brought in, obviously because of the pedigree she brings to the table. But I want to ask you, I mean, what was it about Kayla that you said, hey, we're changing our whole concept, but, you mean enough and we believe in you enough that we're going to kind of do this special format for you. And where do you see her career progressing? I mean, what do you think that she's capable of doing, and what should we expect right out of the gate?
Yeah, look, I saw Kayla in New York. She looked great. She looked super fit. Talked to her a few times. But, look, she's got an experienced opponent in Brittany. Brittany's 3-4. She's been in the cage. We all know that, plans change when you get hit in the face. And so, we'll just have to see. But I think she's certainly fit and prepared like you would expect of any Olympian to be fit and prepared for her debut. We always knew that Kayla would have to get a few fights under her belt before she could jump into a league format. Always was the plan to do that in 2018 and have her and some other ladies do some special feature fights on the cards, and then we'll look to 2019 to expand that division as we look at the second season of PFL.
Carlos Silva, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He's the president of PFL. PFL has their second fight card of the year of the regular season, and it's at the Chicago Theater in Chicago, Illinois, 9 p.m. Eastern Star Time on NBC Sports Network. And, of course, there's pre- and post-fight on Facebook, which we will definitely remind you of throughout the week. The headline bout that night is Luiz Firmino versus Will Brooks. These are lightweights, and, again, 6 lightweight bouts, 6 light heavyweight bouts. These divisions are debuting here, and they will continue on through this regular season. The top 8 make it to a playoff format, and from there it's single elimination until there's one man standing. $1 million to first place. The runner-up gets 200 G's. That's a great payday,
nice
too.
Right?
Goes, what you got for Carlos Silva?
Carlos, can you talk a little bit about the environment after the show? Because this is a different scenario where now you have fighters who got victories but can maybe not feel like they got a victory if they didn't maximize their points. What was it like walking around backstage, and how are these fighters reacting to all that?
You guys said it. It was exciting to see the standings come out, and really, the standings sort of embrace that we've put this league format together, and now, the fight for the 45s and the heavyweights happened, and there was a ranking, and everyone knows where the cut line is. Everyone wants to make the top 8. I think at first, everyone that got a victory was happy. It's just the fighting game. You always want to get a win, and you're always happy with a win. But then I think as it sort of settled in, and I think as the days went by, I think people started to look and are starting to think and strategize toward their second fight, because you got to also look at where you want to be in terms of your seeding. Because as we feed these top 8 as they go into the playoffs, they're going to be seeded straight up based on their points, 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, etc., on each side of the bracket. And so I think the fighters are going to now have to look at what they got to do to try and get the highest seed they can, so that they can not hit their other higher seed opponents until they get to the semifinals, which is all part of how a bracket works. So I think it changed a little bit, but I think everyone was happy to get their wins. Certainly the guys that got first round finishes, guys like Steven Seiler, was a great surprise. Alexander Almeida as well, with early finishes and bonus points. I think they were super happy.
Earlier in the show, we have a little bit of World Cup fever here in the studio, and we were talking a little bit about, they have a point system as well, and we were talking about how even now there's still rules that are being kind of changed around, the introduction of instant replay, all that type of stuff. I know it's still early for you guys, but even in that first show, are there already things kind of popping up, ideas for next season?
I think every league, as you look at playoff systems, point systems, the way that the cut lines work. I know, if you go back to NASCAR's early Cup chase for the Cup days, they moved it from 12 drivers, I think, to 16, and it expands. So yeah, I think like any good league, we're taking notes. We're also learning. I think we did a very thorough job of looking through where it would be, but as the season develops, things will change, and we'll want to make sure that the fighters are safe. That's one, first and foremost. So we're already looking at their rest times and what they've got to do as we lay out the season for 2019, and then we'll make some slight adjustments to improve the league for the fans. And so we're taking the notes, and then we'll start to make those adjustments as we get through this season.
In your notes, is there a stop in Las Vegas at any point in 2018 or 19? That's where we're at. In my notes, there's definitely a stop in Las Vegas. We haven't yet announced the playoffs, but we'd really love to be in Vegas for one night of our 3 playoff nights. We're working on that right now, and I hope to announce that in the next couple of weeks. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Carlos, for the time. We look forward to PFL 2 on Thursday night on NBC Sports Network at 9 p.m. Eastern Time with Luiz Firmino and Will Brooks. You guys are doing a great job. It's been great catching up with all the fighters. I just want to pass along that they've been excited. They love the way they've been treated. They loved going down to Florida for the media day that they had. And, of course, they're all excited for the $1 million payday. They're all gunning for it.
So far it seems like every one of the 72 think they're going to win the $1 million, and I think that's the way it should be. They all have just as good a shot as each other, and if they get their wins, they advance, and they'll eventually be the 2018 world champion in their weight division. So we're looking forward to Chicago on PFL 2, guys. Thanks so much, and look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Thank you, Carlos, for the time. Bye. Carlos Silva can be followed on Twitter at Carlos Silva, just like his name.
I think the format's awesome. I mean, the thing that I've been saying all along, I know, they're going to struggle to get some attention, but when we get down to December and you got fighters that are fighting for $1 million, I mean, life-changing money for people, man, that's going to be awesome. I think that's going to be so cool to see, because a lot of these names are recognizable names and people that we've seen fight. So to see, these guys cash $1 million checks is going to be pretty interesting. And I think it'll be cool, too, when you get down to the end and, you kind of talk about like other sports where you're like, how does he have to finish? Where does he have to end up? I mean, you could have a situation where a guy's like, not only does he have to win, but it has to be a first or second round finish. Like a decision isn't good enough to get him to the playoffs or whatever. I think that's just going to be an interesting way to follow the sport. I like the concept, man. I do.
So do I. And, when Germany lost to Mexico, the chances of them being a number 1 going into the next round decreased. They could still go that way. When you go in as a number 1, you play a number 2 from another group. Right? But if they're a number 2 and you happen to win 1, you look and you go, oh, fuck, we got Germany? Yeah. Well, that could play out with Andre Harrison. He's undefeated. Totally. He's 18-0. But because he went to a decision, he only got 3 points, while there were other guys that were getting 6 points. So you could be a guy going, I'm the number 1 seed, the number 2 seed. Oh, man, I got Andre Harrison. So that'll be an interesting twist as well. You just got to pay attention. And let me remind you all, back in like 2009, 2010 when Bellator started, I remember Eddie Alvarez, Ben Askren, Michael Chandler holding up checks of $150,000, $100,000. They were excited. They became a world champion, and they made a lot of money, and it put them on the map. Alvarez was already on the map through Japan, but those other guys in MMA, they hadn't really done that, so this could be that type of stepping stone for them. All right, we got 1 hour down and 1 hour to go. We got Jake Ellenberger here in studio with us. He's got a street fight story to share in the second hour, and we'll also catch up with Will Brooks and Robbie Peralta. Stay close.
Love to see him go to the UFC.
You can talk about the pit, barbecue, the band was jumping, the people too. I mess around.
All right, here we go. It's the MMA Junkie Radio Show. We're not messing around over here. Jake Ellenberger, we've been waiting, man. Which one is this? Is this the drink in the face story or the street fight story?
Oh, I was going to talk about street fight.
Street fight? Okay, let's do that.
But I got to tell you before I start the story, what really bothers me is nowadays we live in such a sensitive culture. Like when I was in school, you get in a fight and that was it. You know, you become buddies, you become friends. Like nowadays, it's just not like that. You can't get in a fight or altercation. Like we used to go. It's funny. We had this parking lot where on the opposite side of the street of our school, where guys you get in a fight, meet me there after school. You get in a 30-second minute fight and it'd be over. You'd move on.
Now there's trilogies.
I know it's crazy.
And everyone's got the camera phone, and
I know,
it's getting uploaded.
Now it's full. Yeah,
suspensions.
Lawsuits. Yeah, and it's crazy, but it's just so much different now than when I was in school. But yeah, I've had a hand. It's been a long time, but I've had a handful of fights. But the one that stands out. So I had a group of friends that were at a bar. They were all drinking, of course, and I think I was the only guy not drinking. And we go out. It's one of those bar closes. Everyone comes out, and I'm trying to collect a couple of my buddies that are
Nebraska, right?
Clearly, yeah, okay. We're in Omaha. Clearly intoxicated. So I'm kind of hurting hurting the guys. And we got a car out front full of a couple of thugs. Not they're up to no good. They're looking for trouble. And so we got this. I'm trying to my buddy, of course, who's a real short, small guy. This guy's just talking saying some stuff to him, and I'm like, let me grab him. And I go there, and I grab him, and he's not even aware of what this guy's saying. And this guy starts talking shit to me. He's like, and I'm kind of like, whatever. I put it, I forget about it. And he's like, asking me if I want to get put in his trunk. You know what I mean? Like, wow. And I think that's funny. I laugh. Like,
is that Nicky Santoro or what?
So I grabbed my buddy, and we're pretty close, a couple feet from the car. And the guy, of course, this is still comical to me. I grabbed my buddy. We're leaving. The guy in the back seat of the car flicks a cigarette in my face, like he's smoking. So he does one of those, and that's when so I go up and I spit in his face. 'Cause I know what's about to happen, but I'm ready. So, and of course I haven't had a drink. I'm sober. So the guy gets out and I have a couple, but like my brother was there, Joe, and a couple buddies. But I tell him what's about to happen, he can clearly see what's about to happen. But I'm preparing. What am I going to do? What's he going to do? And this is like when I haven't been fighting yet. This is like when I first started training. So I don't know how to fight right now. This is not professional fighter Jake. But the guy gets out. He takes a big crazy swing. I duck it and I throw him on the ground and pretty hard. We're on concrete and throw him down. And it's funny because he's one of those guys where when all your friends are around, everybody's tough when they're talking, and then when something actually happens, nobody wants to be involved. Nobody wants to fight. So I'm kind of beating up this guy and his friends.
Ground and pound.
Yeah, it's funny. I threw him on the ground, and he's trying to like grab my leg, and I'm like, of course, I push his head. Like I'm
a jiu-jitsu player.
He doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah,
he's like going for a single.
Yeah, he just grabbed my leg, a single leg.
Okay,
but he's like on his chest, grabbing my leg, trying to. I don't know. I'm like kneeing his head with like one hand's on his head. Again, I don't really know. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going off because this guy.
Pride rules. Knees on the ground. Allowed, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, so this guy, he had ruined my night, so I made sure I ruined his. But it was just one of those. The funny part about it is everybody he was with was one of those tough guys that were not
suddenly disappeared.
Yeah, they weren't that tough though. It was one of those. I'll say 10 feet away. I'll stay 10 feet away, but that was
Joe like leave him alone 1-on-1? Was he kind of watching your back?
Yeah. So there was a group of guys. And Joe was there. He was not drinking either, but and he had a buddy because they were in town from college, and his buddy was a heavyweight wrestler as well. And so, like when this thing starts, when this thing goes off, like Joe's fighting with somebody, he has him in a clinch, and he's like kneeing him, and I'm just like, I'm hoping A, cops don't give all, B, no one gets seriously hurt, so we can get out of there. And we see. My brother's buddy, I won't mention his name, but he picks a guy up and he slams him like horizontally on the concrete. And I swear the guy bounced like a foot off the concrete. But I was like, yeah, that's enough. It's time to go. And it's like, listen, I mean, everybody in Omaha, I know all the security guys. I know most of the cops, and they all at the time, like the guys that were working security at the time, I knew really well. And they're like, listen, just get out of here. We saw what happened. This guy's instigating it, but that was one of those where.
And so just to finish the fight, you were kneeing him, and then enough was enough, or
yeah, I
did he say a few times I'm good?
He clearly.
Did you guys shake hands or
no? He just wanted to get away.
You ever see him again?
Done, so no, I don't know. I don't know who he was, but
he thought he was badass with that cigarette move, huh?
Right.
Okay. Wow.
But yeah, cigarette in the face. I'd never had that, so that was.
But you don't. Honestly, you don't strike me as a spit in the face type of guy. You just strike me as like, all right, let's get out of the car, whatever.
Yeah. I know.
You're real chill.
Yeah. Well, I know most of the time I am, but me and my brother were kind of earlier in we were kind of wrestling around, just him and I. And if I had a bloody lip, so I had a mouthful of blood. So it was one of what's gonna happen. And the guy, it set me off. He's wearing like white velvet, like head to toe, like long. Yeah, it was.
Who is this guy? DJ Khaled or what?
Yeah, don't know. I don't have no idea who it was, but I just know it was gonna be on when I spit on him. So
White velvet.
Yeah,
fighting Mr. Furley or what?
It was something you see like Prince wearing. It was weird.
All right, let's go for round 2 here, though.
Yeah.
What about that drink in the face? One of the two.
Drink in the face.
Yeah. Or there was one on you, and there was one at you, right?
Yeah.
Leave it alone, or can we talk you into it?
I can tell which way he's leaning.
I had one time where we were in the. It was after a fight. We're in the East Coast. In my
one of your fights.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a girl actually thought my brother had said some things that were not appropriate to her, and she had thought that I was my brother and did one of those. And so, I mean, it's funny looking back at it now.
How long did it take you to figure all that out? Because you're just Jake, and all of a sudden,
you're like, what the
water's
fuck?
all over you, right?
Yeah. Well, I'd heard what he'd been saying, so it was not really a surprise. But that it was on me, I was like, I was pissed. But
there you go. All right, Jake, what's next for you? How soon do you want to fight? Where are you at as far as?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I'm gonna sit down and talk to Dana, but we'll see. I have no idea what's gonna happen next. I don't know what's next, but we're talking August, September, maybe. We'll see, but can't give you any certainty yet.
Now, by that, does that mean on a fight booking or like on a?
What time frame? For me, obviously, in a perfect world, I'd fight in Lincoln at the end of August, but we'll see.
That wouldn't be too soon because, like John pointed out, even though you lost and even though it was a TKO stoppage, you weren't knocked out. You weren't concussed or anything.
Right.
30-day
mandatory medical suspension. Yeah. So no 6 month. Yeah. No medical clearance or nothing like that. So, yeah.
And that's what, guys? Late August?
August 25th is in Lincoln. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're still outside of 2 months.
Yeah.
To do that.
Right.
Okay. That in no way means. Just because people will ask is that your final fight? You're 33.
Right.
I was breaking down your record. We did this even I think before your fight. You have 31 wins and 26 stoppages, if I'm not mistaken. That's pretty damn impressive.
I appreciate it.
You know what I mean? 16 KOs and I think 5 submissions. Or did I get that right? Hold on, I got it right here. Oh, wait, that's Robbie Peralta. Robbie Peralta's been moved to later on the show, guys. Sorry. That's what I was communicating with Danny.
Gotcha.
All right, you have 19 KOs and 6 submissions. So 25 of your 31 wins have been finishes. I was breaking down, obviously when you got to 29-6, that was a really, really nice run that you had. I mean, that's a great career run. I remember you were skidding a lot of these guys as well. You have some bonuses to show for it. Now, the run that you're on right now, you've obviously had more losses. But what I wanted to look at the positives, right? Your last win, when we talk to a lot of fighters who have had recent losses, sometimes you have to go back to 2011, 2012 and go, that's the last time you won. You won in 2016, and really you won in less than 2 years ago. All right? And then prior to that, it was 18 months before you had your other loss. So what I'm trying to say is, there hasn't been a long continuous run, which I think other fighters have had, and that's when I think people say, hey, is it time for them to hang it up? Like Rashad, man, God bless him.
Sure.
I think he's at 2013.
Really?
Yeah, for his. That's 5 years, bro. You know what I mean?
I know it.
So I think that one's a little bit more valid. England has just scored in the World Cup over Tunisia. They are up 1-0, 10 minutes into the game. But with you, I'm looking at different fights that have that have told us, hey, I'm still in the game. You know what I mean? You tell me, Jake, though, you say you're feeling good, you wake up wanting to be a fighter. How many more years would you like to do this, or is there a set amount of fights, or?
It's I don't necessarily have a set amount of time. It's literally, I'm really taking it one fight at a time. That's I tell everybody, family, coaches, I love doing this. I mean, it was when you brought up Rashad too. I'm friends with both guys, Rashad and Anthony, great guys, and that's that's one of those where only you can really make that call. But some would say maybe you should move on. But I mean, first of all, the guy's a world champion. You know what I mean? He's accomplished. He's made the highest accomplishment.
You talking about Rashad?
Rashad.
Yeah. No, I'm not
world
suggesting
champion.
he retire. I'm saying a lot of people will say, and then when you look back to see, if I'm not mistaken, Penn's last win was 2011, right? I think it was a while ago. BJ Penn.
Sure.
So there's a lot of fighters where you look back and go, it's just been a while since they've won a fight. Nick Diaz is another guy that might be, I think, 2011 or something like that. But with you, I don't even have to go back 2 years, and you had your hand raised, and then there was another 2-fight losing streak there, but then there was another win, that tells me, because once you reached your 25 wins out of 31 with all the finishes, I mean, every fight has been difficult. Every single person you're fighting out there is a nasty dude. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. No, and I think, to your point, people make that judgment all the time. Oh, look at your last 5 fights or 6 fights or whatever. It's like, okay, first of all, look at you're fighting at the top level. Look at the guys, Stephen Thompson. You look at the guys, and you're looking at guys in the top 5 in the world. But yeah, for me, like at the end of the day, it comes down to how do you feel? How do you like? Here's a perfect example. So one of my coaches, Jason Perillo, I do boxing with. He's a phenomenal coach, and he's like the most brutally honest guy you'll meet. Like he'll tell you, like, if you look like shit, you look like shit. Like he's that honest, which is what I love about the guy. I respect it. And we're doing mitts, and he's doing stuff that I have to react to, and he's like, listen, if you didn't react like you should, or how you should at this level, I'd tell you, bro, like I'd be honest with you. I'd tell you it's time. It's time to move on. But that's I really respect guys like that. They're honest with you. They tell you things you don't want to hear. But everything, like I said, everything was clicking. Everything was reacting. Reaction time was there. Everything's in place. So yeah. But to answer your question, one fight at a time.
One fight at a time. Okay.
I heard you mention on your podcast, the Action Junkies, that I don't remember the exact quote, but you said something along the lines of, "I'm going out on my terms." How often do you reassess what those terms are? Like, at the time when you said it, what were those terms, and how often does that change?
Sure. I mean, it is. It's tough to really measure that, I'd say, but every fight you got to really reflect and what went well, what didn't go well, and like I said, if as a fighter, when you wake up and you can. If you don't have that burning fire inside you, it's time to move on. But and I think a lot of guys don't want to have that honest conversation with themselves either. So I just say, you really got to reevaluate every fight.
I've heard a lot of fighters, Sergeant, who have their own podcasts talk about how it serves almost as a form of therapy to just be able to sit down and just talk. How does that work with you?
I mean, I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, I don't know if that's an interesting way to put it. I'd say it might be a little more therapy for John than myself, but no, it's fun. It's a good time.
You mentioned being on the Nebraska card. I mean, I think that's obviously a fit with you being from there. But what is it about that appeals to you? I mean, because you live in California now, right? So it's not like you'd get to fight. You'd get to sleep in your own bed that week, right? I mean, you'd have to travel. So is it like is it a free trip home to see friends and family? Is it just reminiscing? What is it about fighting there that does appeal to you?
Yeah, no, there is. My dad lives in Lincoln. My mom's in Omaha. I obviously grew up in Omaha. I spent most of my life in Omaha. But I'd say it's more so the support, the family, the I know Lincoln very well. I know a lot of people, a lot of businesses. So it's a great opportunity. So we'll see. I've been talking to Dana. We'll see what he says. But I'm prepared for however that conversation goes. We'll see.
Jake, I want to go back to that. Most fighters don't just talk to Dana. I know you guys have a good relationship. Is that how it's always been for you? Like, you guys actually set up your fight, or?
Oh, with Dana?
Yeah.
Well, no, he doesn't typically make the fights as far as matchmaking goes. Obviously Sean does, or they'll collaborate and do it. But
does he allow you that time, kind of like as a mentor friend, or?
Yeah, no. He's always been available. Always been a honest. He's one of those very direct guys. So it's like you got to be very direct with him. He doesn't like people. He obviously doesn't like managers and. You don't bullshit a guy like that either. So you got to be direct. But we've always had a good relationship, and you know what I mean. I've been fortunate for that.
Mm-hmm. If we can go back to the fight, are you done talking about it, or can we?
Sure. No,
I really thought you looked good. For one, let's talk about your preparation, and then I remember, I think with a few days out, abs of steel, you're showing everybody. So it looked like your diet was on point.
Yeah.
And at the fight, I think if we can go back to some of the fights where you struggled, it's been uncorking, and letting it go.
Right.
In this fight, I actually saw you do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there was this wild right hand, man, that had it connected, it could have taken out Ngannou or Stipe or something. So your whatever Perillo is tightened up, you know. And by the way, I am a supporter of the work you did with Edmund. There's some stuff he taught you within the pocket, these pivots that you do that are really, really slick, and you learned it while you had your tenure with him. I'm not one of the dudes that really slams him. I mean, there's been some stuff with Ronda that, like, I didn't agree with, you know, but regardless, as far as your boxing, it seemed like there was some stuff there, and it looks like Perillo's added some stuff. So you were definitely swinging. You were definitely uncorking. I would honestly say that the mistake was when you clinched and there was an opportunity to separate, you didn't, and somehow you went back into the clinch, which was the strength. So would you say that was just mental, or did you have enough tall dudes in your camp that you were able to work out of there, and therefore you felt confident? I saw the uppercuts were working as well.
Sure.
Really, it's like it came down to a mistake.
I know.
What I mean?
No, you're right. I would agree with you, because even the preparation too. There, I had plenty of taller guys too, and if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, I didn't really respect him. And I don't respect him. I didn't think he was going. There's no way this guy's going to hurt me. And really with Perillo, all of our work was aggressive. We're going to be aggressive. Like, he's not, you know, there's strategy and stuff, but he's like, I'm not going to sit here and focus on one or two things or skills. It's like, we're just be aggressive, just be you.
Right.
And so that was anyway. With the camp, that was really the focus, being aggressive. And I got a little complacent in the clinch, which is where the mistake was made. But for me, you know, I look back now, it's like, I take him down, beat him, do whatever, break the clinch, and I was in such incredible shape, like I was excited about going 3 rounds, like no question, no problem, you know. And even seeing, like, watching his past fights, you see him, he gets tired, obviously, but and has made some mistakes as the fight goes on. But yeah, for me, it was kind of like I got a little complacent, but I was like 15 minutes, like, let's go 15 minutes. You know what I mean? That was exciting for me.
We came back on Monday saying he shouldn't have gone there, but then I thought about it. I go, but it's fair to ask the guy, if he did a 3-month camp and you were in there with some top Muay Thai guys or guys that have a really good clinch like he does, then maybe he just found the confidence. Like Masvidal was so confident with Maya that he actually didn't mind engaging him at times. You know what I mean? When he could have pulled out. Now, in the end, he did make a mistake. His teammate Covington was able to see that and not make those mistakes certain positions. So there's sometimes that fighters, they'll have such a great camp that they don't fear those positions either. So I thought that's maybe what it was. It was like, hey, even though you know he's got a good clinch,
for sure,
there's something there where you feel like you can, you know.
I agree. I mean, I think that's a good point, because I was confident in the clinch there. It was like, there's a lot of options, but for me, I got a little complacent. There was staying aggressive or staying active in that position, and like I said, it got a little complacent and caught me. So
all right, you're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be talking to Will Brooks from PFL. He's headlining PFL 2.
Changes the price.
They pat down TSA agents because they don't know where those people have been, and because they can. They are Gorgeous George and Goes, and this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Hear your favorite sports from a different perspective on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. VSiN gives you the view from the counter on the only channel broadcasting live from a Las Vegas sportsbook. Follow the money while you follow the games on SiriusXM, Channel 204. Odds are you will like what you hear on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. John, you've been on that, right? I've heard you.
Yeah, done a couple little spots here and there.
All right. Now let's talk to Will Brooks. He is the headliner. He, along with Luiz Firmino, are in the main event at PFL 2 on NBC Sports Network with a start time of 9 p.m. Eastern Start Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Will? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us here on MMA Junkie Radio. I got a big cast here, including John Morgan, UFC welterweight Jake Ellenberger, and Goes, our fabulous co-host. So anyway, listen, man, we just hung up with Carlos Silva, and you know he gets us pumped up about this Professional Fighters League and what they're doing with the regular season format and the playoff. You had an opportunity to watch PFL 1, and I don't know if you saw the standings come out, but obviously a win doesn't necessarily put you in first place or put you in the number one seeding position. How much do you pay attention to that? Because I know the number one focus is obviously winning, but winning with a finish is even better.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, you definitely want to just focus on winning because winning solves everything, you know. So I try to put my mind on that, but at the same time, with the way the point system is set up, it kind of encourages that mindset to kind of go seek out a little bit more of a spectacular finish or just a finish in general. But that's fine. I mean, that's mixed martial arts, right? Like everybody wants to see the finish, everybody wants to see the knockout and all these different things, but you know, so it is what it is. It's a unique format that they're trying to put together. But you know, I'm excited to be a part of it. I haven't put too much energy into it because my mindset is always to go out there and fight my fight and just take it 5 seconds at a time and just get the job done. Because again, winning solves everything. You know.
You were a world champion at one point. How much confidence did that give you in your career? Even though your last couple fights have been setbacks, you have reached the pinnacle of a major sports franchise or MMA sports franchise. So how much do you reflect back on those days knowing, hey, man, I can bang with the best?
Yeah, man, I think, to be honest, I think that was, in my last few fights, I think I was too hung up on that, actually. You know, I think I've tried to put too much energy into that mindset where it's like, yeah, like, I'd be one of the best guys, and I'd be some of the best guys. I've been there at the top of one of the best organizations in mixed martial arts, and I did all this and I did all that, and I just blinded myself with the things that I had created for myself, and didn't focus on the things that I wanted to create in the future. And so I've tried to step away from that mindset. It was like, oh, I've done this before, and I've been this and I've been that, and I'm more focused on that. I'm all of that still. I'm all of that. Like, I'm still a champion caliber fighter. I'm still a guy that was just born to win. I just need to get my mind right and just stay consistent and be aware of where I'm at all the time, and that's really where I've been at now. So I don't think it gives me an advantage or anything in regards to this format or being a part of this organization. I'm me. I'm always me, so it is what it is.
Will Brooks, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He headlines PFL 2 on Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Start Time. His opponent that night will be Luiz Firmino. Let me turn it over to John Morgan.
Yeah, well, I did want to ask you, I mean, talking about the mentality and the mindset, I mean, how does this compare to when you came to the UFC? Because, you know, in Bellator, you were on top of the heap, but things weren't great around there, right? And coming to the UFC was kind of a fresh start. And now this, of course, I think is a fresh start as well. But, you know, maybe, you know, you're coming off those losses instead. So give me an idea, what is the mindset like now versus then? How do they compare?
Yeah, the mindset now is, you know, I really haven't, like I said, I don't put too much energy into being with Bellator or the UFC. And I try my best to just move forward because the more time you put into this idea of, well, I was here and I was here and I was doing this and I was doing this and things didn't do the way I want. The time that you put into that, I guess, the time that you need to be putting into the gym. So my mindset is just being out here and doing the best I possibly can do for the Professional Fighters League and really just trying to make sure that I just get back to winning, period. Like, that's just my mindset is I don't care when, I don't care where, I don't care the name of the organization, I don't care the label, I don't care the group of guys who run the organization, I don't care. I just want to get back to winning, and that's bottom line my mindset right now, and that's just the approach that I want to continue to take throughout this format with the Professional Fighters League, and just throughout the rest of however much time I got in my career is just, hey, let's just get back to fighting and just stay consistent with winning, you know.
Well, I did wonder about that because I saw you were out, throwing out the opening pitch earlier this week. I mean, here it's fight week. It sounded like a pretty cool moment for you, but I did just wonder kind of, under this PFL format where it's basically you just win and your checks come. Is there any, I don't want to say lack of desire, but is it easier to kind of not worry so much about promoting, not worry about so much about fight hype when, you've got a schedule here? You don't have to necessarily create interest, or do you feel like there's still a need to kind of get the message out and the brand out? How do you fall on that?
No, I believe there's a great need to still get the message out for the brand, still continue to brand and do your part, because look, the thing that we've lost track in mixed martial arts is the idea that, look, you have to, if the organization is doing well, the fighters will do well. If the fighters are doing well, the organization will do well. If I'm doing the best I can for the organization, you would like to have that mindset. The organization is going to recognize that and give that extra effort into us, the fighters. So I see it as an opportunity where, they're rebranding, they're rebuilding, they're trying to bring something new to mixed martial arts. This is a great opportunity for the fighters to really put ourselves in position to almost maneuver our way back into that position of recognizing that this organization runs based off of how the fighters operate. And if we can do that in a professional manner and just can stay consistent with that, then we can put that energy back into mixed martial arts where it's, let's focus on the fighters, not so much the organization, and continue to get that relationship built. So that's part of the reason why I decided to come with the PFL.
Will Brooks, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio, on Twitter at IllX Will Brooks. Fights out of the American Top Team in Florida, but originally from Chicago, so this will be a home game for Will Brooks. Goes, what do you got for Will Brooks?
Will, this Will Brooks that we're talking to now, is this a tightening of the screws Will Brooks, or is this a rebirth of Will Brooks?
This is, I think it's a combination of the two. I think as far as being a fighter, it's a tightening of the screws. As far as me being a person in my everyday life, this is a new Will Brooks. I believe that I found that balance. I think I was having a hard time finding a balance between being Will Brooks outside of my everyday life and being the Will Brooks that needed to show up to the gym and take care of business. I was having a hard time finding that balance. So I started the process of trying to figure it out, and sometimes when you go through that process, it may come a little bit easier, it comes a little bit quicker, but for myself, I've recognized that, hey, you didn't turn the corner exactly the way you wanted to, but I feel that I finally turned the corner. I recognize the balance between, being the best husband and being the best father that I can possibly be at home, and being the best fighter that I can be as far as training in the gym, as far as showing up and doing my job, being a promoter, helping promote these fights, do my job on social media, things like that. I found my balance, so it's more, I've tightened the screws as a fighter, and I'm having a rebirth as a person, as Will Brooks outside of fighting. So it's a combination of the two.
I'm glad you brought up social media, because that was going to be my next question. You're one of the most interesting follows. I love following you on Twitter because you crack me up, because one day you could be just talking about food or a movie or a new Netflix series, and some days you're spitting venom. How has social media affected your mood overall?
I think in the past, a lot of fighters a lot of people try to think like social media doesn't affect them, or like it doesn't bother you or change the way you think, but actually it really does. It does, because in the sport, you have to be in anything, in entertainment, where you're trying to promote yourself or be a part of this, you have to be on social media, you have to be engaged in these different with fans and different conversations that are taking place. And I think in the past I was very much an emotional guy. I still am very much an emotional guy, just more now. I'm a little bit more aware of myself and aware of the fact that I am a husband and I'm a father, and at some point my kids are going to get older and they're going to be able to Google what Dad was saying or Google what Dad was doing. So I don't want to have that image out there for them. So now when I'm on social media, I just kind of go off based on what's on my mind. I try not to go based off of what I'm emotions. If I'm thinking about food, which I think about often because I love cooking, I cook a lot. And
I'm doing it right now.
I'll say something about food, or if there's a subject such as like social injustice that has been going on in our world right now, I'll say something in regards to that, or just speaking on my own personal life experiences and things like that, or I recently just wanted to put it out to people that, for men, I think we have a hard time as men talking about depression and anxiety and things like that. And I touched on that because that's something that I've dealt with my entire life. And, it just came to my mind. I was like, man, nothing had happened, but I was like, this is something I just want to put out there. So it's more just like, how do I figure out, how do I impact people on a level, not just talking about fighting?
Well, we also have Jake Ellenberger, UFC welterweight, here in studio with us. He's our co-host for the day. Jake, what do you have for Will?
What's up, Will? Hey, my question was, with the season being 6 months and the kind of the newer format, does that change your approach to training, or are you just training like you always have?
Yeah, I've kind of gone back to where my training with Bellator. When I was with Bellator, they had the tournament format, so the fight came pretty quick, So I had a little bit of a different approach compared to being with the UFC, and compared to being with Bellator later, once like Scott Coker came around and they dropped the tournament format. But you do have to kind of adjust things in the gym because you have to think, all right, well, I got to get out there and I got to compete at a high level in this fight. But I also have to make sure I come out of there without injury or something of that nature, and be fresh and be ready to fight the next month, the month after, or whatever, or however soon they have the next fight. So you have to be able to set the tone and be like, all right, well, this is the way I'm going to approach this tournament throughout. No matter what guy that I fight, this is going to be my game plan, and I'm just going to make it work regardless. So it's one of those things where you just have to have a format and a foundation and decide that within the 6 months, this is what I'm going to accomplish, and I have to hold on to that throughout. So it's a different approach to it when it's this type of format.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's end with a silly question. Are you hoping that the era of the skinny jean goes away and we go back to baggy jeans and parachute pants? Because you got these big Earl Campbell thighs, man. I don't know how you get into your gear.
Yeah. You know what? I'm a guy that, look, so I wear a lot of high-top shoes, like high-top Nikes, things like that. I come from, like, the era where you wanted everybody to see your shoes, so you weren't wearing baggy pants. You were wearing the tapered jeans, the jeans that got a little bit tighter towards the bottom so you can cuff them and everybody can see your Nikes and everything.
Right.
So I'm still I'm on the fence. I'm like, I got these huge legs that don't really fit in any of these skinny jeans. But I'm also like this Nike shoe head, and I'm like, all right, I got to make some adjustments. So what I do is I go Levi's. I get the skinny jean Levi's, but I get them like 4 or 5 sizes up. So they're a little bit baggier. But yeah, man, I'm not a huge fan of the skinny jeans, but I do have a couple pairs of them in my closet. I can't lie about that.
All right, my man. Hey, it's great catching up with you. It seems like you're in real good spirits. We've covered you for a long time. You came out 18-1. I know things haven't gone well as of late, but still, man, you were a tournament champion in Bellator, which I think, by the way, that experience will bode well for you here. You already know how to prepare for fights that are coming up within 30 or 60 days, so I think that's going to be valuable. So winning a tournament, becoming a champion, defending the title, you know what I mean? That experience is very valuable, and I think you definitely have to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, in this format that PFL has. So we'll be keeping an eye, and hopefully we can have you on throughout this regular season and playoff.
Yeah, definitely, man. I appreciate the words, man. This is the reason why I feel so rejuvenated, because I hear these different words from people like yourself, and these are just small reminders that we take for granted as fighters. The fact that you don't have that much to do with my life, but you felt that way. You felt that way to share those words with me. So these are different motivations, and that's why I'm rejuvenated. I feel like, yeah, I'm finally back to where I turned that corner fully, so I appreciate that.
All right, brother. All right. Take care. Have a safe camp. And, well, camp's over, so have a safe weight cut, and we'll watch you on Thursday night, NBC Sports Network at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Right on, man. Take care.
Take care. That's Will Brooks, folks. PFL 2. Watch him headline the card on Thursday. We'll be right back.
They taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
All right, I'm not going to do a read because I want to get to our next guest, but I do want to let the guys know on the soccer channel on SiriusXM, if you're looking for an analyst, Jake Ellenberger's not your guy. That's all I got to say. He was able to name 2 soccer players we gave him about 4 minutes. Yeah. And because of that, I got to buy Goes Chipotle.
He did say, or John did say Smith.
I said a Perez. I gave you a Perez.
Perez, Silva, Smith. He could have thought Peralta's our next. I would have said Peralta. I would have said Garcia.
Yeah, Garcia.
You know, I don't know. But Jake Ellenberger is not destined for soccer talk. All right, let's talk to Robbie Peralta, 19-8 overall, fighting Juan Archuleta, 18-1. They're on the main card at Bellator 201 next Friday in Pachanga Resort and Casino, which is in Temecula. It's California's finest casino. It's beautiful, man. It's over there by my parents' crib, and I really like it. Now, that's the one that's headlined by Ilimi Lei McFarland versus Alejandra Lara. McFarland will be defending her flyweight title, by the way. Paramount's got you covered with a 9 p.m. Eastern start time. Peralta joins us now on MMAjunkie Radio. What's up, Robbie? How you doing?
What's up? I'm good.
All right, my man. Well, we're excited to talk to you here on the MMA Junkie Radio Show. You'll be leading off the main card at Bellator 201. I've always told people that wherever you're at, it kind of is always nice to know when you'll be fighting. Once we get past your fight, you know, everyone else's warm-up doesn't always go according to plan. At least you know that you'll be fighting at 9 p.m. Eastern start time. But I guess my question is more, how long? What's your day of, like, once you get to the arena? Like, do you like to chill, play cards, tell jokes? You stay serious? What do you like before you go in there and battle?
I'm just more calm, just serious, just trying to stay focused on what I need to do when I get in there and handle my business.
Is it like Mike Tyson says, once you get punched, the game plan goes out the window? How is it for you in MMA? Or are you able to remember the things you worked on, and are you able to capture everything your coaches are saying so that it's kind of smooth sailing, at least according to if the fight's going your way?
Yeah, it's kind of the same way when Mike Tyson says, yeah, as soon as that punch gets thrown, and sometimes the game plan goes out the window, but I mean, I still trying to listen to my corners when I hear them shouting and trying to keep in mind what they're trying to tell me and stuff, but sometimes can't help but get caught in the mode and just let your hands go and trying to kick the other person out.
So it's kind of a race to sock him before he socks you, right? At least according to Mike Tyson.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, be aggressive. Yeah. That does seem to be the theme here, especially with judging, man. You can be the dictator of at least some of the criteria, depending on what state you're in or what country or what rules are being adopted, the style of play of the ref. It always goes back to the fighter, I believe. Be aggressive and let them react to you. Let me turn it over to my co-host, John Morgan. John, what do you have for Robbie Peralta?
Yeah, Robbie, I just want to ask. I mean, he's certainly no stranger to the big show, but hey, you dealt with a couple losses. It stretched out over some time. I got to ask how important it was for you to pick up that win in September, and I don't know, just kind of maybe how that affected you, how it affected your mindset, and to get back to winning ways.
Oh yeah, just try to get focused and get back on the winning side of things after taking a few losses in a row. Just had to kind of just resettle, get my mind right, and took a little bit of time off, spend it with the family, and just get refocused on everything, on my training, and just get that hunger and that grind back.
And what happens when you get the call from Bellator and they want you to fight a guy in Juan Archuleta who, a lot of people might not have heard of him yet. I think he's been kind of grinding on there's some regional scenes, but a lot of people behind the scenes are really high on this guy. So, when they come to you, that people kind of look at it as this prospect, even though he's not a young kid. What's your initial reaction when they offer you that matchup?
To me, it's just a blessing and opportunity for me to go back out there and fight for huge shows, especially like Bellator. So I'm just really excited about it, no matter who it is. I'm just ready to get in there and just show what I can do.
Do you break down much tape? I mean, he's a guy, again, that doesn't have a lot of big show tape. A lot of people wouldn't have seen him on TV. But at this point in your career, I mean, are you somebody that tries to find tape, tries to study as much as you can, or do you feel like, nearly 30 fights in your career, you've seen a little bit of everything out there?
Yeah, I feel like I've seen a lot of everything out there, and I'm ready for anything that he has
had to throw at me, and I don't believe he's faced anybody as competitive as I am, and I'm just ready to go in there and showcase what I could do.
Robbie Peralta, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. On Twitter, you can follow him at Peralta MMA. He will be on the main card. He'll be starting off the main card with Juan Archuleta next Friday for Bellator 201 on Paramount, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Goes, what do you have for Robbie?
Robbie, I'm sure you've played this fight out many times in your head. Every time you do it, is it always the same type of finish for you, or have you envisioned different types of scenarios for this fight?
No, I was envisioning the same thing, watching his eyes roll back and to his head and just knocking him out. Letting the referee jump in and finish it. That's what I was envisioning and picture in my head. That's what I'm looking for to do.
All right. Like The Undertaker, man. He was really, really descriptive there. All right, brother. Hey, thanks for the time, man. I know these are the hard workouts. Camp's almost over. Then you got your weight cut, and then it's fight time. So good luck with all that, Robbie. We'll be tuning in for sure. In fact, I think I'm going to be there in person because I'm a California kid out in Temecula. But, stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, brother?
Okay, for sure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Shout out to Dan and CJ from Bellator for lining that one up. Carlos Silva's courtesy of Greg Savage. Will Brooks, courtesy of Goes. He lined that one up. Jake Ellenberger. I caught that fish. All right, let's do the daily debate. You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. The question for today is the following. How important is it for Conor McGregor? Is it that Conor McGregor fights in the UFC before the end of the year? I'm going to give you 4 choices. Very important, important, not that important, or not important at all. Goes?
I went with very important just because you have to remember, especially with people talking about ratings and all that, every time Conor McGregor fights, it's good for everyone. It's good for the fighters. It's good for the organization.
Good for us.
It's good for us. We just mentioned that the other day. It's great for us. So I think it's very important.
John?
I think it totally depends on where you're coming from. If you're looking at it from a business point of view, a UFC point of view, I'd say very important as well. I mean, a Conor McGregor fight can change their entire financial outlook. If you're looking at it from Conor McGregor or maybe even Khabib Nurmagomedov's point of view, then I say maybe not that important. I think Khabib doesn't really care when or if he ever fights Conor. And I think Conor knows he can come back whenever he wants and still be that big ticket item. But I think if you're the UFC, yes, you got that money coming in from ESPN next year, but man, you don't want to write this one off as a loss. I think they'd love to have him back.
Jake Ellenberger?
I kind of agree with John here, but I think that important who is really the question. To the UFC for business, absolutely, it's very important. But I would say to Conor, not at all. It's not important at all because he can do we can do whatever he wants. But sure, like Go said too, it's good for business, good for the fighters, it's good for everyone.
Yeah, including our traffic.
Including our traffic.
Yeah. But, I believe this question, obviously, we asked the fans to vote, and 1,757 voted. So I'm going to play the fan role here.
Okay.
Man, you know what? Very important is I'm a fan. I'm a fan, too. Once I take these off on a Friday, I'm like a fan. And so I think we need that kick in the ass from a major star, a pay-per-view star that can bring it. And let's not forget, I know it's been almost a couple years, especially here in Vegas. When that dude fights, I mean, if you hear these soccer chants, it's from a bunch of guys that are here to support Conor McGregor, not to support, the nation of Ireland, who didn't make the World Cup, by the way. But, I mean, it takes over this town. It's a nice buzz that it creates, and it's a nice build-up for 2 months. And then, obviously, we have press conferences, ESPN, everybody's showing all kinds of replays. Sometimes we get water bottles or confrontations. I mean, everything just gets jacked up. I mean, honestly, when they decide who's going to ref is big news in a Conor McGregor fight, who the judges are going to be, or things like that. So I just think it'd be a good lift, and I'd love to see him fight in 2015 for the UFC. Who at this point?
Khabib, come on, don't even trip.
Well, of course I'd love that, but I'll just take anything because here's my thing, John. I would love for it to be Khabib if he could commit to. All right, if he beats Khabib, are you going to defend? Versus the other guys that have come. But if it's just a one-hit wonder and back to boxing or back to doing other stuff, then pair him up with GSP, and that way they don't disrupt a division, and then they can both make a ton of money. But anyway, let me break it down for you. 45% said very important. 17% said important. So right away we're like
62%
that really feel like hey, this has to happen. Not that Important came in at 16%. I think they'll still take it, but they don't, it doesn't. Their lives don't depend on it. 22% didn't give a fuck.
Haters.
Yeah. So there you have it. That is the Daily Debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio crew and UFC welterweight Jake Ellenberger. Or as Hector Lombard calls you, Jake Ellenberger. All right. So, Jake, we're getting ready to wrap up here. You're in town for cornering duties, maybe some Dana time. And what else, man? You going to slot machines?
No.
Blackjack? No, you don't do that?
The
Rhino?
I'll make some. No.
Okay.
I'll make some wagers, but yeah, no slot machines, nothing like that.
Nothing like that, huh?
Yeah. But I got my kids, I got the family with me.
Oh, the whole family's here?
Yeah, the whole family's here. We're actually flying out to Omaha Wednesday, so we're here
from Vegas?
Yeah, from Vegas to Omaha, so.
Very cool. And you have 2 kids now?
2 boys.
All right.
Yep.
All right, cool, man. And then maybe in August you could be dancing on that card in Nebraska, and if not, maybe just later in the year.
Right.
Is it not a make or break, but how married are you to that idea? Like, would it break your heart to not be on that card? Are you okay with?
I would love it. You know, obviously I've headlined the fight in Omaha, so I know what that's like. I mean, like I said, I'd love to. I'd love to be a part of it. It'd be a great opportunity, but we'll see. I'm prepared for whatever happens. You know, we move forward.
Right on. All right, my man. Thanks again for co-hosting with us and hanging.
Thank you guys.
John, do we have the names yet of the people that are coming in from the UFC tomorrow?
No, but we'll have those confirmed quickly. We just have some folks from the UFC Performance Institute. That's some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, so we'll be talking tomorrow on nutrition, strength and conditioning, and everything that they do for the fighters out there that we've heard has been a hit. Jake, have they already checked you out? You know, and what your heart rate is, and different types of chemicals in your body, all that shit.
I've worked a little bit briefly with them, but I've done a lot of work at the training lab, like with Sam Calavita. He does a lot of the similar. He's actually been doing stuff like that for years, a better part of a decade. But
right on.
Yeah, similar stuff.
We've smelled some of those chemicals come out of them before in Afghanistan, right? That was fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of processed food over there.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right, folks, we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of MMA Junkie Radio. For Danny Beckies, Dan Tom, who was here, but he was producing more than anything, John Morgan, and Jake Ellenberger. I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be a champion.